So he's a obviously billionaire investor and co-founder of Oaktree Capital. And they have about 135 billion under management.
Yeah.
And he is very well known for his memos.
Yeah,
if there's anyone other than Warren Buffett known for their memos, it's old mate.
What's his name?
Howard Marks.
There we go. Yeah, Warren Buffett was once quoted as saying, when I see a Howard Marks memo arrive in the mail, that's the first thing I'll always read. Very quaint, old Warren getting it via mail.
Yes.
We could just get it online. And then Michael Maubossin is the head of conciliant research at Morgan Stanley, former head of global strategies at Credit Suisse, former professor at Columbia Business School, written a number of investing books, another big name. So that's who we're talking about today. Let's start with Howard Marks.
Yeah.
His memo was titled Thinking About Macro. And that caught my eye because Howard Marks hates macro forecasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is he hates them, doesn't employ any economists at Oaktree, doesn't base any investment decisions, so he says, on macro forecasts, thinks they're a waste of time, and that, they don't really ever pan out the way that they should.
Yep.
And so yeah, you're right, when he's sending out letters titled Thinking Macro,
Yeah.
it's alarm bells.
Yeah, and the first 2 pages of this memo really double down on the skepticism around macro. He in some of the quotes, the macro future isn't knowable. He writes that macro forecasts are likely to turn out to be either A, unhelpful consensus expectations, or B, non-consensus forecasts that are rarely right. And he also suggests that in areas entailing great uncertainty, agnosticism is probably wiser than self-delusion. So he doesn't pull any punches when he's talking about the perils of macro forecast, but then he does spend the next 15 pages talking about macro forecasts.
But I think in fairness, you've always got to continue learning and changing your views and challenging yourself. And I think if you were to unnecessarily stick to a view for the sake of holding that view, then that's where you can come unstuck. So it's good to see that someone for so long has been anti-macro. Now he's talking about macro.
Yeah, but I don't think that's because he's decided that you can all of a sudden predict the macroeconomic future.
No, it's probably more because of the importance it's having on markets.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. It's almost as if you've read the memo. But yeah, for Marks, the reason that he's written this memo and the reason that trying to predict the macro future is important now is because the market has decided that it's important now. Less and less the market's movement is being driven by the fortunes of individual companies and bottom-up analysis, but rather the market is moving based on expectations around Federal Reserve policy, interest rate movements, quantitative easing, all of these big, in the inflation conversation, all of these big macro conversations that are happening. And so for Howard Marks, it's important because the market's decided it's important.